The night started like any other episode of The Tonight Show. The familiar Here It Comes theme song blared cheerfully, and the warm yellow lights illuminated the stage. Jimmy Fallon emerged with his easy smile, neatly combed hair, stirring the audience with light-hearted jokes about the weather and celebrity gossip. This was Fallon's brand, safety and humor, carefully packaged. The audience clapped and laughed, completely convinced they were in for another light evening, far removed from political turmoil. But what no one expected, just minutes later, that smile would dissolve into breathtaking silence, and The Tonight Show would become the stage for the deepest political fissure in America. Tonight, they didn't come to laugh, they came to confront. The familiar studio set had changed, subtly but frighteningly. The vibrant colors and bright LEDs were gone. The lighting had shifted to a cold, steely blue tone, casting a serious shadow over everything, making the space feel more like a courtroom or a sci-fi set than a cozy late-night venue. In the center, two chairs sat facing each other, with a distinct gap between them, like an invisible trench no one dared cross. Fallon walked out, his smile present but stiff and forced, like a mask about to shatter. Moments later, Kristi Noem appeared from the wings. She wore a dark suit, walked with a straight posture, and her face was hard and expressionless, as if she hadn't come for an interview, but for a difficult duty. She took her seat, her eyes sharp and cold, fully prepared for any assault. The audience, affected by the sudden shift in atmosphere, fell silent. They sat motionless, observing and holding their breath, feeling like compelled witnesses in a national trial. Initially, they maintained the final ritual of courtesy. Fallon thanked Noem for her time amid the storm of news engulfing Portland and Washington. Noem returned a stiff smile, saying she wanted the American people to hear the truth from the person in charge, rather than having it distorted by the liberal media. The audience offered applause, but it was short, frigid, and sparse, sounding like distant knocks on a door, as if they were performing a mandatory rite before moving on to the actual crisis. No one truly laughed or cheered. In that brief moment, everyone understood. This pleasantry was merely the opening act, and immediately after, they would face an uncompromising storm. Jimmy Fallon was about to shed his friendly MC facade. The atmosphere had shifted from entertainment to a direct political confrontation. Then, Jimmy Fallon's smile completely vanished. It was replaced instantly by an expression of unexpected gravity. He was no longer the friendly MC, but a prosecutor of power. Fallon looked directly at his guest, his voice deep and heavy, forcing all eyes onto Kristi Noem. "Madam Secretary, I have to get straight to the point. The video from Portland is not just normal news footage. It is an emblematic moment showing the government's reaction to dissent. A military expert said on TV, there's no such thing as a non-lethal laser when it comes from a sniper rifle. It is a clear message, a bullet is an option right now. Do you realize that deploying military-grade weaponry to resolve a street skirmish has turned DHS agents into combat sentries on American soil?" The studio was plunged into a deathly silence. Not a cough, not a single clap. Everyone held their breath. That night, Jimmy Fallon had opened fire. Noem didn't blink. She reacted instantly, her voice cold and unyielding. She leaned back and counterattacked. "Jimmy, I'd rather use a frightening deterrent than have my officers seriously injured. DHS agents are there to protect the IC facility from people trying to burn it to the ground. The laser stopped an assault on a journalist without firing a single shot. We didn't shoot. We warned. And it was effective." But as she spoke, support was clearly not unified. The few isolated claps were swallowed by uncomfortable murmurs from the audience. The air in the studio grew hot, like fanned embers, signaling that this was no longer a polite interview. Fallon shook his head slowly, completely bypassing the technical argument. He leaned forward, shifting the narrative from legal to emotional, recalling the words of the affected journalist. "Madam Secretary, journalist Nick Shirley publicly stated that he feared the government more than the man who assaulted him. He is the citizen you claim to protect. So, if the public is being terrorized by the federal authority, is your objective being met? Who is the real aggressor in his mind?" That moment was a direct punch to the system. Shirley's fear of the government created an undeniable paradox. Every eye in the studio, from the audience seats to the crew, was fixed on Secretary Noem, awaiting a softened response, an explanation for the absurdity. The realization hung heavy. The government claims to protect, but citizens recoil under the cold shadow of the federal gun. Jimmy Fallon gave Noem no time to recover. He escalated the questioning to an accusation of political motivation. His voice, devoid of any humor, was now intensely serious and challenging. Madam Secretary, you may just be protecting a president's policy, not the people. Our viewers worry that those rifle barrels aren't just aimed at rioters, but at legitimate voices of dissent. You're sending a clear message to anyone who disagrees with the administration: be quiet, or face the sniper. Are you using state violence to suppress dissent and create a climate of fear? The audience was stunned into silence. The quiet was not born of respect, but shock.
Nos murmures, nos coups.
People sat frozen, tension palpable, as if any sound might shatter the suffocating atmosphere. Fallon had delivered the gravest accusation possible: tyranny. Noem sat upright, her eyes sharp and defiant, confronting the camera and Fallon. She did not back down, choosing instead to attack the MC's authority to question her. She seemed to view Fallon as a political adversary, not a host. Kristi Noem, Jimmy, I'd rather do anything than have you and the rest of the media continue to justify the anarchists destroying a city. The right to peaceful protest is absolutely protected. But let me reiterate, the right to arson, assaulting officers with fireworks, and causing injuries is not the First Amendment. If you keep wasting time debating the warning tool, you are ignoring the crime being committed out there. I will not apologize for upholding the law. The moment she finished speaking, the room instantly erupted. The stage was visibly split by an acoustic earthquake. One half of the audience cheered loudly, shouting support, the other half whistled and booed in furious dissent. Two starkly opposed factions were exposed live on the set, clearly reflecting the deep polarization of the country. Fallon, though visibly surprised by the intensity of the reaction, held firm. He waited for the uproar to subside, then spoke slowly and clearly, forcing everyone to listen to the dangerous legal precedent Noem was setting. Madam Secretary, this is the biggest issue, far beyond Portland. If a future president, of any stripe, of any party, uses your exact law and order logic to deploy snipers against peaceful protesters, have you not opened the door to a dangerous precedent, a permanent legal weapon that can be exploited to silence dissent forever? Are you not handing too much power to the government? This was no longer a question, it was Fallon's final indictment. The entire room held its breath, waiting for Noem to be forced to confront her potential political legacy. Noem responded, her voice unwavering, cold in its resolve. She completely denied responsibility for the precedent. Kristi Noem, if people are afraid when they break the law, then that is our success. We are not setting a precedent, we are enforcing the law. If a journalist is afraid when they see a gun, then that is his fault for standing too close to the rioters. We will not back down, and I affirm that we will continue to do the same to protect this country from chaos. Her words were the final spread of wildfire. The audience erupted into actual chaos, thunderous applause, furious boos, and intersecting shouts of argument. The Tonight Show had witnessed the most out-of-control and divisive scene in its history.
Jimmy Fallon s'attit fort un moment, letting the noise subside.
He turned straight to the camera. His eyes were no longer those of a host, but of a citizen confronting his nation. Jimmy Fallon, to the government, order means a laser from a sniper rifle. To journalist Shirley, order means abject fear from the very hand of the authority. The question remaining for America is, who is truly being protected, and what is the cost of this order? The music swelled, but it was heavy and somber. Fallon nodded, his face still strained.